why don't we design cities for 2040 and be forward looking than really retrofitting and trying to fix what we're doing in 2025? My name is Andrew Cary, co-founder, CEO of SNAAP Transportation, and thank you for joining us in this episode of SNAAP Transportation. So first thing we want to talk about is the future population is actually predictable. We have all of these global numbers, but then why don't we plan around traffic congestion with the similar forward thinking? And so when we look at the way cities are designed, smart cities, sustainable cities, the way urban growth is defined and then designed, why don't we apply the same data around the future of mobility and redesigning the way we look at city design, mobility and accessibility, job creation, and actually even local ownership to major projects. Everything that we've relied on historically has been about the government doing the work. And is specific to the issue of transportation and mobility, it has always been the government. It has been government transportation agencies. And really there's some fantastic ones around the world. But you reach a critical point where the role of government should naturally dissipate, take on the big projects, the big work. But then when we get into these categories of redesigning the future of cities, redesigning the future of mobility, it's actually the place where private sector should step in and should have that innovative edge to what the government simply isn't designed to do. And so when we talk about the future growth of populations, and I'm going to pick out the Middle East, I'm going to pick out the United Arab Emirates, I'm going to pick out Dubai specifically, there are some really, really stark numbers. And so when we look at that, I believe that the new population growth in Dubai specifically was about 17,000 new residents last month. So when we're looking at the data of population, when we look at the data as it relates to population, car ownership, and cars on the road, there is predictable data sets that we can actually plan for. So when we talk about the congestion issue, when we talk about population growth, we naturally have to have that conversation around city design, transportation system, multimodal, multi-layered transportation system. And we need to, again, get government to keep its lane, stay in its place, but then also have an environment where innovation, scalability, resilience, and sustainability have its place with the private sector leading forward. So again, around the future population growth, places like Dubai, places like Sao Paulo, Brazil, and really developing areas, continental Africa, another great example. We need to take a look at what data sets we have, what we can plan for in the future, and stop always retrofitting where we are. Now, we certainly have a responsibility to our population, but let's go ahead and use all of this active data to help us better define, better design, and better develop the future of mobility and accessibility in urban locations, and we can start doing that today. So, similar to the issues around reactive expansion, reactionary behaviors, or even in transportation design, we may plan for a new freeway, a new freeway exchange, a new mile, a new elevated rail or light rail system. And in the design of those systems, historically, that is based on X population growth, sometimes 2 to 5% population growth. And then in the designing and the infrastructure and the environmental degradation and the lack of sustainable infrastructure, many of these projects will be forecasted 10, 15, 20 years out. That is the nature of government and design. Now, even some of the best mobility transportation agencies in the world are extremely well versed in the planning, but they're still going to be 10, 15, 20 years out. Now, the issue is, and I've raised it before here in Tampa, Florida, we just got the wonderful banner of the worst holiday traffic in the United States. And yet we have some exciting future mobility plans. So where's that disconnect? And it falls into the same thing. It's so reactive to the data and information that we have today. Now, again, with the data sets, the reactionary approach to supply and demand of the roads, congestion is going to be the way it is. Why are we not today creating the multimodal systems that will allow the future of mobility, accessibility, job creation, more available for everybody rather than select subsets? And the reason I bring up these subsets is when we talk about air taxis or fly-in cars, while they are a great idea and while they are being realized as we speak, they will not help solve traffic congestion. When we talk about autonomous vehicles in and of themselves, they're not going to solve traffic congestion. When we talk about shared mobility, well, that has been around for a long time. Uber and Lyft and Cary and many other companies and government-run agencies. Now, they're helping, but if you add shared mobility and autonomous vehicles, you now actually exacerbated the traffic congestion problem. So again, when we look towards reactive expansion, adding another road, building another bridge, these are retrofitting current design models rather than looking at a multimodal and multi-layered options that should provide fewer cars on the road, provide non-stop point A to point B mobility, and be resilient and scalable and sustainable for really any urban location in the world. This is actually leading into the conversation about the difference between adding capacity, which I've just mentioned, and redesigning systems. So adding capacity, it actually invites great more use. Oh my gosh, they've added another lane. So we can expect as soon as that construction is over that we'll be able to get from point A to point B faster, and find out as soon as the work is done, we're still stuck in the same 5-mile corridor, the same 1-mile gridlock. And again, we are literally in a reactionary mode by adding a capacity that is trying to meet the need, and yet as soon as it's constructed and fulfilled, that's already, for all intents, obsolete. We actually talk at SNAAP Transportation about how we were founded, that our inventor, visionary, solution engineer, Cal Chamberlain, stuck in Atlanta traffic 30 years ago by himself, single occupant vehicle with a rapid transit bus lane, a high occupancy vehicle lane next to him, underutilized, and yet he's still stuck in traffic. Fast forward 30 years, it's just gotten worse. Now, with all of the things that we've thrown at it, we've electric buses, rapid transit bus lanes, the various metro movers, you're still stuck in gridlock. And so adding capacities by buses, adding capacities, and maybe it's a subway or a boring hole, those by themselves are only reactionary, and they are just really retrofitting and maybe expanding some capacity in current or historic design systems. Typically, we know them all. They're underground, they're on grade, or we now have flying cars. And I'm going to highlight here on grade or terra firma. Now, just any mobility, smart city conference, urban design, the majority is talking about shared mobility, electric vehicles or extended range electric vehicles, extended range batteries, autonomous, and then aerial. Really the 4 categories of the redesigning of the future of mobility. None of those are talking about this layer that exists just 5 meters, 16 feet above grade. And so we want to have a very serious conversation with city designers, commercial residential developers, sports, arts, entertainment venue locations, manufacturing or fulfillment logistics centers, the Amazons, and then also places like marinas, harbors, and ports of call where you may be releasing 6,000 to 8,000 passengers from a cruise ship. How do you get them from that port out into the community where they can actually enjoy a local quality of life? How come every single time we go to a major event, we sit there and go, ugh, now I have to walk from out here all the way to a venue? And I'll pick a specific location here in the United States. We have a large automotive manufacturing plant, one of the best actually in the world. Employees have to arrive an hour early to park their car, avoid traffic, and then walk from where they park to make sure that they clock in on time. A lightweight, flexible, scalable, elevated personal rapid transit system is an easy solution in these conversations around traffic congestion, designing cities for the future, and doing it today. And so again, we're really digging into adding capacities based on old systems rather than redesigning new systems for the future. Now, there are some places in the world that are digging in, pardon the pun, to the hard work. Now, when we talk about the future of mobility and redesigning the future of urban mobility around sustainability, scalability, and resilience, we actually ask you to take a different look at it. If we keep digging more holes, if we keep doing things on the ground, and we certainly don't say fly cars, but we are not looking at the way that the real high growth regions are doing things differently. Now, I'm going to just happily talk about Curitiba, Brazil. I named a smart cities at the Smart City Expo World Congress a couple of years ago. They have been forward planning, forward thinking, innovating, bringing in outside conversations, outside influencers to inform their work. Now, as we look at the Smart City Expos group, if we look at the Smart City Council group, when we look at the innovation summits, when we look at livable cities, we invite the conversation around things that are truly innovative. If you're talking about extended range batteries, most people go ho-hum. If you're talking about electric tractor trailer, oh ho-hum. Because the same thing applies to everybody. Today you will consider two things: what you're going to eat and how you're going to navigate your life around traffic congestion. And so the cities that are innovating, they are looking at multimodal as well as multi-layered mobility options. Those are the future cities that are going to start transforming themselves to meet the micro-mobility needs in a new and innovative way. And I'll say it again, not underground, not on terra firma, and not flying taxis. There's a layer right in between that is where the new innovation layer is going to occur. So the last part we want to talk about today is really around modular mobility. And I will speak specifically to the work at SNAAP Transportation, because our mission is not only to help alleviate the problems caused by 80% single occupant vehicles on roads, but really our mantra is to have a personal rapid transit system available to everybody in the world. And what that translates into to the common person is better quality of life through mobility, accessibility, job creation, and local ownership. And the way we do that, and certainly you can see it here, our SNAAP Transportation pod, and what we constitute as our elevated ribbonway. We call it a ribbonway, not a rail. And when we talk about the way we have modularized our system, for all intents, we have created a three-component system. We have our pods, which are scalable. We have our ribbonway, which is built, manufactured, and fabricated locally. And then we have enterprise software. Our goal is to distribute this SNAAP Transportation ecosystem anywhere in the world. We have, of course, agreements in place with covering the Gulf Cooperating Council, the GCC. We have joint ventures in EcoVista Smart Sustainable City, Jamaica. We have other places such as CPTM State Rail Partners in Brazil, and numerous places here in the United States. So the ability to now create a modular system a pod that is not only single occupant, but the same pod shape and size is a dual occupant. It's also for ADA, disability, or people of determination. And we also have a vacant pod for actually micro distribution, micro logistics, and supply chain. So the ability to scale manufacturing of the pod, to fabricate at scale our ribbonway, and then again, the localization of the enterprise software. The fun part about the ribbonway, as we call it, is that it's actually designed on international standards, but when we reflect here in the United States, we often talk about something that is called an erector set. So back in the day, back in elementary school, you used to have an erector set. You dump it out, and it's all these fashion pieces and all these connectors. Well, that's actually how we design SNAAP Transportation. The ability to use 10-foot pieces, 20-foot pieces, 50-foot pieces on a 53-foot tractor trailer. Bring them in, drill our holes, erect our posts, and then again, affix our ribbonway to that. I'll add one more component to the SNAAP Transportation ecosystem, and our modular mobility design is actually solar. Depending on the location, of course, we're actually able to affix solar panels and begin the process of episodic charging around our battery management system, our ability to sustain our pods for extended period of times on the elevated ribbonway, and create a mobility structure that is accessible, relatable, adoptable, sustainable, resilient, scalable, and locally owned and operated. So again, when we talk about how modular mobility adapts to cities, it's by scalability. It is by a flexible ecosystem. And that is really what SNAAP Transportation is bringing to the local marketplace. So we ask that you join us. You can actually follow us across all social media platforms and also send us an email at info@ridesnap, snap is always with 2ways.com. You can find us across all social media platforms. We invite you to follow us, comment, share, and like what we're doing as we bring SNAAP Transportation to a location near you.